Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Photoshop for Artists. Now, if you've missed any of the other episodes, you can watch them back on Behance or over on YouTube. Just go ahead and search for Photoshop for Artists Adobe Live, or search for Photoshop for Artists Kyle Webster. That's me. I am your host, and we are back in action. Had a little time off there, but now we're back, and today we have a really fun one. And because we're focused on Photoshop for people who draw specifically, today's is a special one for those of you who do patterns in your work. Okay, now a lot of people now are making money creating patterns for surfaces, for licensing, and this is something people want to get into, but sometimes they think, well, what's the process? Is it prohibitive? Is it difficult to get that knack for creating something that is seamless and that can be scaled, etc.? Well, I have good news for you, because in Photoshop, there was a feature added not too long ago that allows you to create a seamless tiling pattern with almost no effort whatsoever. The effort required is literally to tap one button, and you're done. Now, anybody out there who has been trying to create patterns in other apps or even in Photoshop in the past knows that there is work that is usually involved in trying to line things up and cut and paste and move things to corners and all this other business. You no longer need to do any of that, and I'm going to show you what that is today, and we're going to have some fun drawing a springtime pattern for everybody. Now, let's say hello to some folks who are out there watching. Oh wow, we have Jeff is watching from Montreal. That's cool. Salut Jeff. Je ne sais pas si tu parles français, mais bon, si oui, tu peux me dire dans le chat. And hello to RB, and hello to Cryo, who I believe is watching from Ireland. Am I right about that? Kathleen, hey. Nice to see you. Hey, Cody Bear. Cody's great. Great artist. Follow Cody. Check out what Cody's up to. Now, those of you who are watching over on YouTube, I see Michael. Nice to see you as well. And if you're watching over on, YouTube or Twitter or elsewhere, just remember that I'm following the chat. What's up, Romer? Nice to see you from Brazil. Cool. I'm following the chat over on Behance, be.net/Adobe Live. So that is to be or not to be, be.net/Adobe Live. Okay, that's where you're going to find me. Chin, how are you? Nice to see you. Hope I'm saying your name correctly. Let me know if not. Maybe it's Sin, but glad that you can join us. All right, folks, let's get to it. We got to get working here. So we are going to pop on over to Photoshop. And before we get going, I had a question the other day. Someone asked me, Kyle, how did you get that color wheel to show up? And they thought I was using a plugin, but no, let me show you something, folks. If you want to be able to work with different color options in Photoshop, there is a little drop-down menu. I'm just going to pull this out for a moment so you can see it very clearly, okay? There is a drop-down menu right here. All right, it's four little lines stacked on top of each other. Now here at Adobe, we call those hamburger menus. If you tap on that, you'll see right away, look, you have different options for how you want to display your color. Now by default, you're going to see this, the hue cube. All right, but if you just move that to color wheel, you are all set. It's that simple. Isn't that great? So yeah, you don't need a plugin for that. There are some great color plugins, though, I'll tell you, for Photoshop. So if you are looking for one, go ahead and find some good ones there. There are plenty of really good ones, but this is built right into the app. It's not a plugin, and it's a nice way to look at your colors. So there you go. Okay. All right. Now we are going to be looking at a thing called pattern preview mode today, and I just love it. It's made my life so much easier for pattern creation. Now let's see how this works, okay? It's going to take me all of about 3 to 4 seconds to explain it, and you're going to be like, man, I wish I'd known about this earlier. So here we go. Ready? Let's say you're ready to draw a pattern. Well, in the old days, okay, you would start drawing a little something, and you'd say, oh dang, now I got to really make this work because I have to line it up with the quarters. So you would go ahead and you'd set up your rulers, and you would then drag rulers out to snap vertically and horizontally, and you'd take your art and you'd take everything in the top left corner and you would slide it on down to the bottom right corner, and you would do the same thing with the bottom right. You'd slide it up to the top left. Okay, and then you do this over. This is what you got to do. You got to move everything up to the opposite diagonal corner. okay? And whoops, and then you take that and get rid of all this other nonsense. You draw something here in the middle, whatever, all right? And then you would have to think about aligning things to the top and bottom, the left and right, okay? And that's a pain in the you know what? And this is just the process that you would go through to create your pattern, okay? And a lot of times things wouldn't line up and you get kind of stuck and you'd have to realign and try again, blah, 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 all right? But at the end of the day, basically, you would have something that looks like this, okay? And you would go to Edit, Define Pattern. All right, there you go. Doesn't matter what we call this right now. Now, if I make a new document, okay, we'll go ahead and make this really big. We'll go 4,000 pixels square. Okay. And now that we have something big, we can fill that. We go to Edit, Fill, and select our most recently created pattern, okay, which is right down here. There it is. We say OK, and now you can see what that looks like, okay? All right, now, forget all that. Forget all of that. It's very restrictive. It's not fun. It's not the way you want to work. No, no, no. There is a better way now. Check this out, gang. Here we go. Like I said, this will take me about 3 seconds. Are you ready? Start the clock. View. Pattern preview. You're done. That's it. Now look. Everything I draw, automatically tiling, automatically connected. And I am in heaven. I'm in pattern making heaven. Isn't this incredible? Look at that. I can zoom out. I can see how it's working. Zoom back in, work with details. Oh, I'm telling you. More people need to know about this feature. Every time I show this to people, they didn't know it existed. They just didn't know. They're up there using other apps and they're like cutting and pasting and trying to align and then having to like reopen it and change it and reopen it and change it and make these little tiny incremental changes. No, no. Pattern preview is your best friend. Here you go. So that's all there is to it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to draw. We're going to have fun. We're going to make a pattern and it's going to be spring themed. But guys, you know, if you want to, I can just stop the live stream right now because there's the lesson. Pattern preview. You're done. Same process as before. Edit, define pattern. Okay, there's my pattern. And now if I go back and create another 4,000 square pixel doc, okay, and we say let's go ahead and fill that with that pattern. Edit, fill, pattern, boom. Here's that pattern we just saved. Voila, you are done. You're good to go. Look, let's just make it massive file. Okay, this file is like 12,000 pixels big or something crazy, okay? You say bye-bye. Let's fill it. Edit, fill. Same old pattern. Bam. Look at that. Perfect. Seamless. You're done. Okay, bing, 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 bing. So there you go. Your life has just been made easy. Go make some millions of dollars selling wallpaper, okay? And you're all set. Just don't tell the client that this is how you did it. You don't want them to know how easy it is. No, no, no. All right, so, yeah, what do you think about that, gang? Let's see. Well, that's neat, says Alex. Hi, Dee. Thanks for joining us. Steven's here as well. Hey, what's up? Josie, hi. Marie, hi. All these nice folks. Natalia from Costa Rica. Cool. Thanks for joining us. Kathleen says, wow. Great for making texture backgrounds to bring into After Effects. Yes, Alex. Yes, yes, yes. Textures. Folks, I make textures all the time for my brushes, and I used to have to labor over those. But now with Pattern Preview, oh, so wonderful. Cody has a pattern show on the Adobe Twitch channel every Monday. Did you all know this? Adobe Live on Twitch every Monday. Check out Cody making patterns. That's so cool. I didn't know that, Cody. Yes, it's very useful, Steven. Hi, Caroline. Nice to see you. All right, gang. Yep, Peter, I love it too. I love it too. So useful. Okay, well, hey, let's just get to work. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to delete all that nonsense. By the way, you're like, what's that brush you're using, Kyle? Oh, well, guess what? This brush is going to be coming to you in the summer, and you're going to get to love it and enjoy it and make patterns with it and do beautiful decorative things with it. Isn't it nice? Yes, I'm already working on the summer brushes. The spring brushes are live in North America on the 18th of this month, which is today. Go grab them, go have fun. Speaking of the spring brushes, maybe we'll play a little bit with those today in making our pattern. Why don't we check that out? Let's see. Spring 2023 is what I'm after. Where are you, Spring 2023? I've got, look at all these brushes I have loaded. Too many brushes. Am I just not seeing them? Oh, here they are. Bam. All right, here's some goodness for you. Here's some goodness. So like I said, we're gonna do a springy pattern, a spring pattern, okay? Now, one of the cool things about this, if you're gonna be making a pattern, is you don't have to just stick to like working on a white background, right? Layers all work, everything all works. So if I just wanna start with a color and fill it in, I can just do that, okay? Option, delete. On a Mac, if I'm using a PC, I wanna use Alt, delete to fill with the foreground color right there. All right, so I can go ahead and I can tweak this. I can play around and get something I like. It's kind of nice. Get a little bit more saturated, a little bit more green. Getting more into that sort of spring feel. And then I can even, with a brush that's that same color, okay, from here, this is using the spring brush set. Maybe I want to do something like use this color push brush. And I can create another layer and just paint. Now look, because everything tiles, right? I can see how I want to paint this background and make it look really lovely all the way across the entire canvas. And again, I'm not even worried or thinking at all about my seams, am I? No. The edges of the boundaries of my canvas are no longer fighting against me with math and with alignment and things like that. I'm just painting, right? And I've already got a beautiful painterly kind of background. Same basic color scheme, but look, as I zoom out, you can see that pattern emerging, right? Really lovely. And what we want to do is we want to design something with spring in mind, so I thought it'd be fun to have sort of some vines and a little bit of some flower work with some nice drawing, some line drawing, and then maybe a bumblebee or two just flying around, okay, or a little honeybee flying around just to make it cute and pretty. All right, so that's my goal. What do you think about that? Hi, Umacorn. Thanks for joining us as well. Hi. Steven says he's been using this feature to create patterns for clothing on Redbubble. Great idea. Not made millions yet. Steven, listen, I'm not trying to put the pressure on, but maybe you want to speed it up there and get to that first million there for the pattern designs, okay? Jeff, you're only seeing winter 2023 brushes on the site. Not to worry, if they're not live yet, they'll be live either later in the day or live tomorrow morning at the latest. So you should be fine, not to worry. They are on the way, I promise you. And for those of you who are Fresco users, you're gonna see the spring brushes going live, I believe, in the May release, okay? So you can look for those as well. But don't worry, if you don't see them, remember you can always import brushes into Fresco as ABR files. And since everything here in Photoshop for brushes is an ABR file, if you download the brushes from the download site for Photoshop, save that ABR somewhere, and then just go ahead and import that directly into Fresco, okay? And you are in good shape. All right, so I'm gonna make another new layer and sketch out my design. So let's see, I've got a wax pencil here in this new brush set. May as well use it. We are going to think about our sketch for this. And isn't it fun? Look, every time I draw something, it's just so satisfying to see it show up immediately as a pattern, right? That just never gets old to me. It's kind of magical to just be able to do that. And this is the kind of feature that I love, the kind of feature that still allows me to draw and have total creative control over everything, but also saves me a lot of time and headache. Like, that's just one of those sweet spot features. If only AE had the same brush abilities. So you're talking about After Effects. Alex, listen, I've been hoping for support for my ABR brush sets in After Effects for years. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it will happen. I need to will it into existence. Okay, so I said vines and flowers, right? So I thought it'd be nice to have, you know, some kind of a more of diagonal kind of movement through the main canvas here. All right, so what I want to do is start with something that kind of snakes its way through there. And look, this is what I love. If I want to connect this to here, right, I can start my line out here, and I can then aim. Watch this. I can go bum, 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 and then just aim to connect that. Look how easy that is. Now, if you didn't have this pattern preview, right, you'd never be able to do that. It would take so much time and be such a nuisance to try and split this in half and figure that all out. But here you just draw. You draw freely. Get the result you want in seconds. Okay, this just makes my life so much easier. All right, now what I want to do is I want to kind of connect this up and into there. See that? Look how we're able to create these patterns so easily. So easily. And another one right there. Isn't that cool? So I want these vines to connect with each other, right? And just kind of coming and going. And I want to place some flowers throughout here and there. And then have some bees flying around. Now this is just a sketch. So right now I'm just experimenting with like nice lines and shapes that I think will be pretty. Okay, so that one goes to the right. So now I'm thinking maybe about going up and to the left. And remember, you can break outside of the boundaries, right? There we go. So this looks pretty balanced. I'm looking also for a balance. Like I want to have nothing feel too tight, right? Space-wise, you don't want stuff to like get cramped. Okay, so you can do stuff like that. That's kind of nice. Think about big, medium, and small shapes the same way you do when you think about any compositional exercise, okay? So we got these bigger shapes and bigger areas that are contained, and then you have smaller shapes and medium shapes within, okay? I love zooming out and being able to see that. We have, let's see, comments from Umacorn says, fell asleep and almost missed Kyle's session. Well, if you need to take a nap, I wouldn't be offended. I wouldn't be offended. Okay, besides, maybe with all the pollen in the air for spring, depending on where you're living, it's going to make you sleepy anyway, so I totally get that. Now, quick tip for everybody. If you are going to be drawing your final line art, okay, now here I'm just sketching, right? But let me just knock this back for a moment and show you something that you need to know about, and that is this. You can use the aid of smoothing, line smoothing, when you draw in Photoshop. It's like having a helping hand to keep your hand steady. And this is very easy. No matter what brush you're using, just head on over here to your tool settings at the top, this top bar in Photoshop right here. And you're going to see smoothing. Now, if you crank that up to a value of about 40%, all right, I'll make a new layer. And now if I use, let's see, I think I have some inking tools in here. Actually, it might be kind of fun to draw with something like a bloom up, like this. I'll crank that smoothing up. I just want you to see that when I draw now, okay, the curves I draw are really, really smooth. And if it's difficult to see that with that brush, let me just use the same brush I was using a moment ago. Or here, we'll use the ink sticky brush. Okay, that's what that looks like. Oh no, I'll use the wax. Just because it's the same, I want you to see the difference. Okay, so now when I draw, everything is going to be following my brush. It's going to feel like I'm sort of pulling and dragging a string that has a lead weight attached to it. So as I'm pulling it, there's a bit of weight and a bit of stability there. Okay, so the line you're drawing no longer feels like it can wobble. Now, the higher you crank that value, okay, the more that smoothing is going to really kick in and make those lines you draw extra, extra smooth. So if I want to start from here and just make my way up, as I did before, it's hard to explain, but if you were to try to draw with this tool, you would feel it yourself, the way that it smooths things out. It's really amazing. It's almost like this feeling that your hand weighs a lot more, and as you're pulling it, it can only move so far, okay? And it can't really jump out one way or the other, or wobble, or create a false line. And I really recommend trying this out. For smoothing, by the way, there are some different ways to use it right here. And this pulled string mode, if you want to get a sort of a better sense of what's really happening, if you use the pulled string mode, you will see as you draw this circle, okay, which is showing you the center of the line. And when I put my stylus down, nothing will happen until I move outside of the boundaries of that circle. So if I start in the middle, you'll get a good representation of this. I put it down. Now I'm going to start drawing. Look, you can see it moving, but nothing's happening until I get here. Now it starts to pull. Okay, so I have all this room to change my mind. And you see how much wobble I did there? And then how little actually was represented in the stroke? Look, if I do this, wobble, wobble, wobble. Okay, so that's a good way to understand how that works, all right? Let's see, yeah, Kathleen says, I love line smoothing. Yes, Cody, line smoothing's best friend indeed, agree. And yeah, Jeff, totally. Lazy Nezumi is amazing. Lazy Nezumi as a plugin, totally great. Only works for PC, but if you're a PC user, check it out. Kathleen says, Kyle, when I clicked on pattern preview, I got the message, works best with smart objects. Transforming pixel layers may show unexpected results. Can you please explain? I've never seen that message before, so I don't know what that means, Kathleen. Don't know. I've always just drawn with it and not worried about it, so I guess if you want to use smart objects, this is something that maybe is going to yield more consistent or better results, but I've never had results when I use this pattern preview mode that were not what I expected. So I'm not sure what that's all about, to be honest. All right, so coming back to my sketch. All right, we'll knock that smoothing back. I want to start making a few smaller shapes in here as well. This is all just me playing and trying to figure out what's happening with my composition. All right, like in the way this is working. And now I want to think about adding some leaves. Okay, so like this kind of thing, like that. And maybe one here, like so. Maybe a small one out this way. And maybe one here. Now, as I'm doing this, what I'm thinking about are, you know, where there are spaces that I feel I could move into without crowding. Okay, then I can always zoom out, take a look at how things are going, zoom back in. Always a good habit to do the zoom out, zoom in. Okay, gang? It's the same as when you're drawing on a big piece of paper or painting on a canvas. It's always a really good thing to move away from your canvas or your paper, to step back away from that easel and get a good sense of how things are turning out, right? This is a good habit, and it's as old as the hills. There we go. See how that's turning out? Looking pretty good. So we're going to put one more leaf right here, and that just feels like a good spot for one. Okay, as I'm looking at my overall design, maybe a little thinner, like that. Okay. And I now want to think also about like some flowers. Maybe we could just do one right here. Woo! Let's see how that looks. These feel stacked, 1, 2. Don't want stacking to happen, so I'm going to change the angle of that like this. Okay? A little less stacky, although those feel stacked now. This is where things start to get complicated. You have to really, really be careful about the design choices you make so things don't get repetitive in the wrong kind of way. We know this is a repetitive pattern, but we don't want elements within the pattern to repeat in a way that isn't interesting. It doesn't keep the eye moving. All right? All kinds of info in today's class that you can tuck away and save for later. There we go. I think from here, I might want to try a little leaf as well that kind of curls. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Or is that too similar to that one? I don't know. Maybe we just do that. It's kind of got its own flavor. That works for me. All right, now bees. I mentioned bees, okay, and flowers. So the flowers could be this completely separate element, or they could be attached. I think with these little viney things, I could probably get away with now doing something like, I'm going to add a new layer just to be safe, but maybe doing some little flowery things that do this, you know? Sort of that stereotypical kind of profile view of a flower, like that. What do you all think about that? Is that doing it? Is that working for you? There we go. And the final piece that I do may or may not have lines at all. You know, I mean, the vines will be lines, but like these shapes could be solid shapes. We don't know yet. Okay? These could be solid shapes. These are the kinds of things I can decide later, and these are the kinds of things I can do easily with brushes. But just, you know, right now I'm kind of thinking that's probably what I'll do. That's the way I'm going to go with that. All right, we're missing this little guy right here. We can just go 1 and 2. Like that. And that kind of covers the bases there. And now we've got room for our little bumblebees. And we might even have some ideas for things to do in the background that also repeat in kind of a pretty way. Hey, Chloe, thanks. Glad you found that tip useful. Excelente. Yeah, good, Cody. Same result. You get that message every time you use it, and you ignore it. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't think I've ever seen that message at all, frankly. So I don't know what that means. Are we stacking too much there? Let's see. Just set it off a little so it's not stacked top to bottom, maybe here. Do that. I think that should be okay. Like I said, it's a balancing act. You really gotta just keep playing until you feel like you've got the right balance of the elements without too much repetition. And the main thing is we're still kind of pulling from bottom left to top right. We're still sort of feeling that diagonal pull. That's the main motif there, okay? All right, now, I mentioned some little bees. So I think just to keep things simple and because of the graphic nature of this, the best and easiest thing to do is to have the bees be like that sort of top-down view, you know? So like bee body like this, and then simple little wings like that, you know, that kind of, whoops, that kind of thing. Really, really simple, that kind of thing. Whoop. So we're not making that anything complicated, right? And what I'll do is actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this bee, copy it, delete it, and then paste it so it's on its own layer. And that gives me the freedom to look, I can zoom out like this and decide like, where does that feel good? You know, putting that bee, in what space does that feel good? You know, and at what scale? So probably I think this is obviously a good spot. It's got, see how much space it has around it, right? To just sort of nestle in there like that. And we have another kind of nice open space here, right? And another little space here. This could be stacked, so we want to be careful about that. We could overlap it right here a little, maybe not, I don't know. We could also have a bee and a butterfly if we want to like mix things up. So here, for example, I can just imagine this kind of a shape working nicely, right? See that? and then doing that. That might be a nice shape right there. So we have a butterfly, a bee, and I'm just sort of squinting down and looking at it right now to see how I feel about the balance everywhere. This feels a little open right here. There's a lot of options. You could have a flower there. You could have another bee, maybe a smaller bug of some kind, right? Could do something like this, just a little 1 and a 2. And that could be a smaller kind of bee right there. That takes care of that space quite nicely, right? You have these repeating elements everywhere. So now, this is another thing I like to do. I want to show you a trick. I like to mask things out with white. Let me show you what I mean. So I just very quickly with the lasso tool, and you can do this with lasso by just making a selection. Okay, I can make my selection like this, mask out this area, and then hit Command Delete, and that fills with my background color, white. Okay, but you can also use a plugin like my Lasso Fill plugin. You can grab that on my Gumroad shop. If you enable that Lasso Fill plugin, it takes that step out where I don't have to do any filling. The moment I make a shape, it just automatically fills with the foreground color. See that? So if I go ahead and swap these out and make white my foreground color, I can just do this and just keep on drawing, right? No keyboard commands. I just quickly draw and get all my stuff masked. Okay, so I get my solid areas here. Now these aren't perfect. I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking to get a sense of the size of all these shapes, okay? And how they feel when they are spaced out in the composition, right? I want to make sure things don't feel tight. So this is really simple. There we go. I'll just make my way through that main canvas area. So helpful too. You know, with pattern preview, I can see the borders perfectly. The borders of my canvas, right? I know exactly how big it is. If I want to bounce out, no big deal, but I can always bounce back in. You can fill it anywhere though. You don't have to stay in those borders. It works the same way with the lasso tool as it does if you're drawing, right? All right, so just a couple more here. One there. And I think that's done it. Now we can zoom out. Nope, looks like we just got this guy right here. Whoop. So now what I can do is I can look at it this way. Now you see that makes a huge difference. So when you're designing a pattern, if you're just drawing with line and sketching and you're not thinking about the solid colors like the fills, you get to that stage later and suddenly realize there's a heaviness to it or like an area that feels congested, then you have to go back and fix it. But if you just do this one step really quickly early on, it really helps you to get a sense of how that's going to look when it's all, you know, placed there. Okay? No shortcuts. It's like magic, says Unicorn. Hey, Abdul Aziz is here. Thanks for joining us. All right, now, you've seen what I've just done there. Okay, now if I want to clean all that up, right, I can use the delete feature here. Enable it and delete. Now this turns my lasso into an eraser, so everything I select is just automatically going to get deleted. Okay, so that's a nice little handy thing there as well. So I can clean it up if I want to clean it up. You know? Just for a little bit tighter selection. And then what I can do is I can hide all the lines and just look at those fills and see how they feel. And that feels pretty nice. It feels pretty balanced, okay? This area is a little tight right there, but I think, you know, once we get some color in there, we might be able to make up for that with some other little areas as well. And the line should do pretty nicely to fill in some of that business, okay? Feeling pretty good about that. I hope you all are feeling good about it too. Okay, so we've got a little time left. I'm going to start moving into some color treatments here. I know that I said I would do some final line, but I feel like this line work is going to suffice for now. It's not the end of the world. If it's not perfect, I think you get the idea. So we can just move right on through. I think we can just keep going. So I've got this layer now that's sort of masking that color there, right? So if I do want to continue just deleting little bits and sort of refining that, it only takes me a couple minutes to do that. May as well. Just zoom around and see if there's some areas I just kind of want to tighten a little bit, right? Either in an additive or subtractive fashion. Right now I'm working with subtractive, but I can always come back in here and just use the regular lasso tool with the enabled fill mode there, just to knock some of that in there. There we go. Feeling pretty good, feeling pretty good. And then I can very quickly move to a stage where I'm using this to fill in with some color. By locking my layer transparency for this layer. That is what I want to do. Lock it, and then simply swap colors out. Another thing you can do is, of course, use a clipping mask or something like that. We've talked about all of these things in this very short 7 episodes so far running course on Photoshop for Artists. So if you missed any of that, check out. If you want to see clipping masks and want to know what that's all about, go ahead and watch back the first and second episodes, and also the most recent episode I talked about clipping masks in more detail. Okay, so episode 6, which was about working in a non-destructive way in Photoshop. Okay, preserving as much as you can, working with layers, doing all those very lovely things. All right, I'm not going to get too tight with this. We're just going to keep moving on. I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer, and I'm just going to use the / key right under my question mark. Tap that one time. That will lock the layer transparency here of this layer, and I'll now be able to fill any colors I want only in the areas that I'm drawing in. So if I go ahead and select this color, I just slide that a bit greener, a bit darker, and I can simply select this whole area like this, and it's automatically gonna, it's automatically gonna fill it with that color, okay? So I can do the same thing over here, make a selection, all the leaves. I'm just grabbing them all, and boom. Look how fast and easy this is. See this? Locking layer transparency, making a selection around that area, and then filling it in. I can zoom out and see how that's gonna feel. Lovely. We have color options for our flowers. I can think about what's gonna sit nicely against that green. If I wanna keep things really subtle, right, I can go ahead, select that, move it back a little bit towards the yellow and a little bit brighter, like this. And I'm working with analogous colors here. These colors are close to one another. We're not straying too far from what we've got there, okay? See, so that's a very subtle kind of thing. There's just enough contrast though, you can see it, right? Go ahead and grab that green again and just hit that leaf I missed. So easy. Maybe some of these little smaller flowers are not gonna be yellow, or maybe we bounce around, try some different colors. So like if I like the pink, try that. Something like this maybe. Not too saturated, right? I'm not going crazy with saturation, just being careful with that. I can always push that later, right? So this could be pink maybe. Right, we want that a little bit lighter. Just go ahead and try that. And maybe here. Maybe here. And maybe the white. You know, the white's kind of, I like white for one of the flower options. I kind of want that to be white, and I'm going to mess with that butterfly later. So I get yellow, yellow, white, white, pink, pink. Okay, these are the flowers so far. That's feeling kind of nice. And now we've got our little buggies. Can mess around with those. So I want to try and hit some blue here with this butterfly. Okay. And then we want our bumblebee to stick out. So we're making that with a different yellow, and we're going to use some real colors there for the wings that are totally different. I'll just do this. Okay. See how that looks. Do we notice that enough? I think we do. Use that color for this body of the butterfly too. Give that a try. Very simple, very simple. You can hide this for a moment and see how it feels without that more textured background. Another thing I'm thinking about for the background is using a brush that has some leafy goodness to it. Now I'm not going to use any of these brushes from the spring 2023. Instead, what I'm going to do is jump back to, I think, is it spring 2021? Yes, the Leaf Fala brushes. Okay. No, there's one. Is that the one? Leaf Fala, Leaf Fala. Leaf Fala is good, but hang on, I'm actually looking for something else. Let me see if it was summer 2021. This is the problem with making 2,000 brushes. I have to kind of hunt a little bit sometimes to find what it is I'm looking for. It might be summer 2022. Let's see if that's is that the ticket. I might have to jump back to 2020. Let's see. Summer 2020. I do like some of those too, but I'm looking for something leafy that I made. It's very specific. So just bear with me, gang. I'm gonna find it. Fall 2021. Nope. I know it's spring or summer, but I just don't know which brush set because I made so many, and they always had some leaves in them. I always try and make sure that I have some leafy goodness in those specific brush sets. Maybe I just didn't see it in here. Maybe no, Hedgie. Well, Hedgie might be okay, but it's just not what I want. I'm so picky. I tell you what, I know it's in the Max brush set. So let's jump in there. This was the Max brush set from 2022. I think it's this leafy mix brush. And we're gonna grab this color right here. I'm gonna hide this for a minute. I'm gonna go a little lighter and a little greener. What I wanna do is just paint with this brush. And you'll see what that does. It adds just some leafy stuff in the background there. Like a pattern more than anything else on top of a pattern. It's a pattern in a pattern. But it's just a bit more specific. It's not simply those brush strokes that have more of a painterly look. This actually has a pattern to it that suits the theme of what we're doing here, okay? So upon closer inspection, if someone were to zoom in, they'd be like, oh, hey, those look kind of like leafy, right? And that's the kind of thing I want to play with. A bit of geometry, a bit of fun. That just makes me happy. Also, some of the fall ones had leaves occasionally. I don't think maple is the right look, although we could, you know, if we take it and we sort of cool it down, it might be. Let's see. Yeah, that's not so bad. I don't mind that. Just sort of breaking it up here and there so it's not so much the same scale. See? This is the fun part. This is where you really start to make decisions that are going to make it feel right or wrong, okay? And I might undo all of this and just decide that I want to take this color and just do that, right? Maybe that's what you want to do because it's less distracting, and maybe that's what this kind of pattern should be. I don't know. If you have any strong opinions, Throw them in the chat, gang. I will listen. I'm a good listener. All right, so here's our color layer. Now if I use that lasso tool again, because I've still got the fill enabled, I can knock that little stripe in RB, and I can even do this, right? Add another one. Give RB a bit more definition there. Okay, do the same thing with this little guy right here. And then grab that same yellow and throw it in there. Oops. Make sure it's my foreground color. And that looks pretty nice. And then if I really want to try some color harmony, I can grab another color like this blue. I can push it cooler towards the purpley goodness here. Not necessarily cooler, but I can fill the whole layer with that, and I can do like an overlay, right? Or a hard light, soft light. Try some like color blending goodness to see how that's gonna play. You know, like this kind of pastel is kind of pretty. I like that. A bit less punchy. Just kind of unifies everything a little bit. What do you think about that? All right, now there's obviously a lot more you could do with this, okay? But for now, we're gonna pause for a minute and we're gonna remind you what to do after you've gotten to a point where you're feeling like your pattern is starting to work. You go to Edit, Define Pattern. And this time we'll actually call it something. We'll call it Spring 2023. Can you believe it's 2023? And that is the scale of it now. But remember, this is a tile, right, that you can, if you wish, work with as a flat image, right? So if you wanted to save a copy of this or something, you could save a flattened copy of it. I could take all my layers and just hit Command E, and that just flattens everything out. Say File. And I could save it as something else. We could save as, and we'll do flat spring pattern. And then I can open that. I'm going to open recent flat spring pattern. And remember that has no, oh, whoops, let me just make sure I save a copy of this so it's not the same one. We're going to get rid of the word flat. There we go. So we go File, Open Recent, Flat Spring Pattern, which has, oh, it still has the layers for some reason. I guess it hasn't updated my cloud PSD. Hold on. Doot dot doot dot. File, Open Recent, Flat Spring Pattern. Oh. I don't know why it's not doing that. It's not updating for some reason, so don't worry about it. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take the whole thing, Command D like we did last time, go to image size, and now you can make this bigger or smaller. If you make it bigger, just be aware, of course, that you're gonna get some pixelation if you go bigger than 125% of the original, because then whatever algorithm Photoshop uses to try and smooth all that out starts to get a little funky. So we're gonna make this small. We're gonna go to 1200 pixels. Okay, so it makes the whole thing smaller. It's still gonna repeat. Don't worry about that. If I go to pattern preview, you'll see what I mean. All right, see that? Still nice and perfect. But then we can take that and we can fill it in an area, okay? So now what I'm gonna do, make a new document, and go back to like 2100 pixels square. And what I do is, I go ahead and we'll grab this, this angler brush, and we'll go here, and we'll do this. And I'm gonna use my lasso tool. I'm gonna turn off the plugin here and just make some selections and paint inside of them and show you something fun. So here we go. I'm gonna make a little person here. Just paint inside of that shape, like that. And gonna add some legs to this person. Okay. And some arms. Hi, they're waving at us, you'll see. Okay, do some more painting. All right, now there's our person, and then check out how fun this is. We're gonna make a new layer. Whoops, I made the cardinal sin of painting on the background layer. Don't ever do that, gang, not unless you wanna be flogged in public. All right, so I take this and I say, edit, fill, right? And we go to our most recently created pattern. We say, okay, and there's that pattern. Now, of course, that's rather large, right? So what we can do is, we can do this instead. We'll go here and we'll use a round brush. Here's a trick. I know you're gonna appreciate this. You guys are gonna enjoy this. Go to my brush settings. I'm just gonna use a hard round brush, okay? Get rid of all the other fancy business. This is just a plain old brush. It's not going to do anything too fancy. Okay. Voila. And we're going to go to our texture right here and select that most recently used or created texture right there. There it is. And we're going to change this mode to subtract and push it up to 100%. If you've never seen this trick before, I think you're going to enjoy this. You can put texture each tip on, all right, or turn it off. If you have a texture each tip, the transparency will be gone in the design. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill this with color. We're going to use a light color, like that. And while I've got it selected, I'm just going to pick a slightly darker color, slightly bluer. And if I paint with that brush, see what it does? It's painting with the pattern. So I take the scale of that pattern, and I can see the preview right here, and I go down to like 20%, okay? And now I'm painting with that pattern on the dress, okay? We can make it even smaller, go down to like 12%, pick a darker color. Look at this. See that? Isn't that nifty? Now if you want to get rid of all the transparency, just go to texture each tip. Check this out. Can add that pattern like so. Okay. Now if you want to change the texture, the pattern, you can go here to that file I had open a moment ago, go to image size, and instead of it being 1200 pixels, just knock it down to like 300 pixels. Save that, export that, okay? Define pattern. We'll just call it small spring. Come back here, and if we don't want to paint the pattern in, you can go ahead and just go to edit, fill, use the pattern as we did before. Just use the smaller version of it right here, kablamo. And there it is, there's that pattern, right? Come over here, go to our brush history. There's that brush I was using a moment ago. And we just paint a bit of hair. Like that. Maybe put some sunglasses on there. Add some funky round sunglasses. What do you think? See that? Use your pattern in your illustration, create your pattern, paint with your pattern as a brush. Sky's the limit. Your creativity is the only thing that is going to be deciding what you can and can't do, right? You're very creative people out there, I know you are. So now you've discovered cool ways to create patterns in Photoshop, to export those patterns directly within the app, to use for a brush, for filling in things, for you can save different versions of it, you can flatten it, save a copy. There's just so much. I mean, you know, what's there to say? It's the best. If I were to take this whole pattern, for example, and what if I just want to change the whole color scheme? Go ahead and use an adjustment layer, hue saturation, right? Try a totally different version of your pattern like this. That might look really, really cool, right? Make it saturated, make it desaturated. Maybe this is like more for sort of a subtle kind of application of it, right? Isn't that nice? Can't you just see that? as a wallpaper right there. What do you think? Like I said, gang, your imagination. Use it. All right, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Remember to be kind, and I will say ciao for now.